here, the Liberty Amendments, which obviously you're here to talk about. You propose 11 new amendments to the Constitution, which would be done on the state level. We don't have the time, obviously, to go through each one. But I do think one of the ones that I wanted to ask you about has to do with term limits. You propose no more than, I believe it's 12 years aggregate. Is that right? For members of Congress?
12 years for members of Congress, aggregate, one house or the other, or both. And it's not only that. What I'm proposing is, under Article 5 of the Constitution, listen, I know when I talk about the Constitution, it's very quaint, sort of, but, you know, these guys, they swear to uphold it. And so from time to time, we ought to refer them to it. And under Article 5, there's two ways of amending the Constitution, through Congress or through the state legislatures. And the framers at the time said in 1787, someday your Congress may become oppressive. Someday your federal government may become oppressive. There has to be a way for the American people to react to this, respond to this in a constitutional, legitimate, and civil way, and that's through the state legislatures proposing amendments to all the states, and just like if the Congress proposes them, 3/4 of the states would ratify. The problem right now is we have a centralized government, concentration of power, unmoored from the Constitution. That's why they get into these fights. You know what they're fighting over, Jake? They're fighting over power. Who's going to be imposing their will on the American people? That's not the way it's supposed to work. The system is broken. The constitutional construct is broken. And what I suggest in the Liberty Amendments is we have to restore the Republic by breathing life back into the Constitution.
One just quick thing, sir, and that is, I just want to ask you quickly, the one most cogent argument I've heard against term limits for members of Congress, and you do also propose them for the Supreme Court as well, but for members of Congress, the strongest argument I've heard is against them is all that would do would be to empower anonymous staffers and anonymous lobbyists who would then truly have even more power in this town. Are you not concerned about that at all?
I am concerned about that, and I'm not the font of all knowledge. I've proposed 11 reform amendments, and if, God willing, we do get to this convention of the states to propose amendments to the rest of the states, this is something that really ought to be taken up as well. We have a permanent ruling class. They go in one direction. You could see it in the debate with the attacks on Ted Cruz. It's not just the Democrats, it's the Republicans too. It's not just Obama, it was Bush before him too. Massive debts. I mean, the president says, I have cut the deficits greater in 60 years since World War II, he said today. He starts at $1.4 trillion and he gets it down to $700 billion. $700 billion yearly deficit. That's the biggest deficit that has ever existed prior to the Obama presidency. And he's bragging about it. That $700 billion is added to the $17 trillion in overall fiscal operating debt.
Mark Levin, the book is The Liberty Amendments. Very successful, popular conservative talk radio host. Thanks so much for coming on. We hope you'll come on.